Welcome to this explainer. Step into the archives with me, and hey, maybe keep your voice down a little bit. Today we're opening up a clinical case file that starts out as this obscure, run-of-the-mill missing persons report, but man, it rapidly descends into a literal supernatural thriller. We are diving into the legend, the timeline, and the completely terrifying evidence of the last train to Black Hollow. Because, as the case notes suggest, some places don't appear on any map for a very good reason. They are just not meant to be found. Our entry point into this whole mystery actually begins back in 1998. A railway employee vanished during his night shift. Poof, gone without a single trace, no physical clues, zero witnesses, and absolutely no logical explanation. But he did leave behind this one chilling piece of evidence: a final audio recording. On the tape, over and over again, you can hear him desperately whispering, "Don't let the last train stop. Don't let it stop." For years, authorities were completely baffled. I mean, what did it even mean? Well, to figure that out, we have to follow the investigation of someone who actively tried to find the truth. Chapter 1: The Forgotten Station. Enter our protagonist, a journalist named Ethan Carter, who gets abruptly handed a cryptic train ticket by some mysterious stranger in the pouring rain. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer impossibility of what happens next. Driven by that classic journalist's curiosity, Ethan shows up at the city's abandoned railway station right before midnight. And the architectural impossibility is glaring. There is no Platform 13 in any blueprint, anywhere. But as the station clock strikes exactly midnight, a loud, piercing horn echoes through the darkness, and slowly, impossibly, a rusty sign reading 13 rises straight up from the solid concrete floor. Out of the thick fog, this old, pitch-black train rolls right into the station. But it doesn't screech or rattle like a normal locomotive. It arrives in absolute dead silence. The windows are totally blacked out. Slowly, with this horrible mechanical groan, the doors open wide, offering an ominous, gaping invitation. But no passengers get off. The platform is completely empty. It's just silent, waiting for someone to step aboard. Chapter 2: The Passenger. Against every single instinct, and totally ignoring the old man's desperate warning, Ethan actually steps inside. A thick layer of undisturbed dust covers every single seat, proving beyond a doubt that no living person had ridden in this carriage for decades. But he wasn't alone. Down at the far end of the carriage sat a little girl wearing a pristine white dress. She looks at Ethan, smiles, and whispers, "You shouldn't be here." When Ethan asks her where exactly this train is heading, she simply stares out the dark window and replies, "To the place where forgotten people wait." And before Ethan could ask even a single follow-up question, every light in the train instantly cuts out. When the lights finally flicker back on, the seat is empty. The little girl had vanished into thin air. But the true horror was what replaced her. Ethan suddenly realizes he is no longer alone in his row. Right behind him, someone, or something, is sitting, and it's breathing. Very, very slowly. Chapter 3: Black Hollow. The train finally grinds to a halt in this decayed, totally unmapped town, a place where motionless figures are watching him from every single window. Seeking answers, Ethan breaks into the town's old library. Digging through the archives, it's like a giant puzzle coming together, and he uncovers a terrifying century-long pattern. He finds newspaper articles dating back over 100 years, and every single report echoed the exact same grim reality. People who boarded the last train never, ever returned. But the final piece of evidence he finds in there is definitely the most unsettling. It's an old, faded photograph of a group of passengers standing on a platform. And this brilliantly illustrates the mind-bending temporal anomaly right at the heart of Black Hollow. Because looking closely at that photograph, standing right there among the missing passengers, was Ethan himself. That photograph was definitively dated 1954, yet Ethan wasn't even born until the 1990s. That is over 40 years later. He was literally staring at a picture of himself taken decades before he even existed. The basic rules of time simply did not apply in this town. Chapter 4: The Whispering Bell. Suddenly, the oppressive silence of the town breaks as a massive, rotting clock tower strikes midnight. We can map out this terrifying progression, what we'll call the Midnight Protocol. Step 1, the first bell rings out. Instantly, all those motionless townspeople step out from their houses and into the street. Step 2. With every subsequent chime of the bell, the crowd takes one rigid step closer to Ethan. They aren't blinking, they aren't speaking. Step 3. By the time the impossible 13th bell rings out across the square, Ethan is completely surrounded by a solid wall of unblinking faces. From that silent mass of bodies, one old woman leans forward. Her voice is barely a dry rasp as she whispers, "You stayed too long." The second those words leave her mouth, the ground beneath Ethan's feet begins to shake violently. From the distance, the shrill, echoing blast of a train whistle absolutely pierces the night. The last train is leaving. Chapter 5. The Chase. Ethan tears toward the station, but the crowd follows. They aren't running, they're just walking. Yet they are terrifyingly gaining ground with every single glance over his shoulder. He reaches the station just as the train doors begin sliding shut. With a final, totally breathless leap, Ethan throws himself inside at the absolute last possible second. The doors slam shut behind him, completely cutting off the encroaching crowd, and the train immediately speeds into pitch-black darkness. Then, the sound of rustling fills the carriage. Every single passenger in the dark train slowly turns their heads to face him at the exact same time. Without even opening their mouths, their voices echo in this deadened, flat whisper, "You brought someone back with you." Chapter 6. Home. The train screeches to a halt at his original station. It's morning, people are laughing, commuting. He actually thinks he's safe. So, the crucial point is what happens next. Ethan pulls his phone out of his pocket to check the time. But it isn't the next day. The date on his screen reveals that 25 years have vanished in a single night. A quarter of a century, just gone. His family and friends had mourned him, grown old, and some had even passed away, fully believing he had died decades ago. Only one thing from that night remained physically the same: the old, weathered train ticket he was still clutching in his hand. But as he looks down at it, the ink starts to shift. New words magically bleed right onto the back of the paper. A fresh, totally terrifying promise that reads, "See you next midnight." The clinical aftermath of this whole case file is frankly deeply unsettling. When police actually investigated Ethan's claims, they found absolutely nothing. They searched for Platform 13, but there were no extra tracks, no hidden station, and absolutely no physical evidence that the train or Black Hollow ever existed in the first place. Yet, to this very day, railway workers at that specific station consistently report hearing an old, ghostly train whistle echoing through the fog at exactly 12 a.m. It really leaves us with a haunting reality about the boundaries of our world, and the things that slip through the cracks to places that just aren't meant to be found. Because some journeys, it seems, never truly end. Which brings me to this final question for you to consider. If you found yourself holding a ticket with no destination, standing in the rain at midnight, knowing everything we've uncovered in this explainer today, would you take the ride?